JavaScript is a very simple language, and trust me when I say this. Now, if you are someone who is a beginner JavaScript learner and having difficulty in understanding the basic JavaScript concept, and somehow you do not agree with my statement, then let me prove it to you. Now, one possibility that I can think of that that led you to think JavaScript is not at all an easy language to understand is you are not being taught well, and you are not being taught using the analogies. Why do I say this? Because I taught JavaScript myself using this method. So this is my attempt to teach you JavaScript, and not only JavaScript but the important concepts of JavaScript. If you manage to understand how the JavaScript engine itself works, what is call stack, execution stack, event loop, uh, what is scoping, etc. If you manage to get the complete understanding of the basics of the JavaScript language, then no one can stop you from understanding this language to the core and use it for various possibilities. Now in this video, I will attempt to teach you one of the most confusing concepts of JavaScript, that is hoisting, and you will understand hoisting using analogies, and then you will actually agree that yes, you can understand JavaScript and you can understand JavaScript very well. Now hoisting is a very simple concept. Don't try to fight. The only problem that as a beginner you get is you try to argue with the language itself that hey, why hoisting exists, why can't we replace hoisting? No, just accept it. Hoisting exists and accept it. You don't have to question JavaScript that why do you have such features called hoisting. Hoisting exists, use it, that's it. So what is hoisting? Think of hoisting like packing a backpack. So before you go to school, you check your bag. You put all your books. Books can be termed as functions. So you check for books, and then notebooks. Okay, now books are complete, books are usable, you don't write anything on books, so books are functions, so they are complete. But notebooks, they are incomplete. Some of the pages can be filled, but some of the pages can be empty. That will be fulfilled, that will be filled in the future in your classroom. Okay, so this will be empty. Think of notebook as variables. Okay, so books, functions, notebooks, variables. Now what JavaScript engine says that hey, some of the variables can be used and before they are declared. That's it. This process of code execution is called hoisting. Now one more thing is JavaScript executes code line by line. This is the default working structure of the JavaScript language. Now keep all 4 points in mind. Now functions are like complete books ready to use, but variables are like blank notes. They exist but they don't have any content until you write on them. But for writing content on them, you need to specifically understand what subject you are going to learn in the school. Okay, so JavaScript says that hey, some of the variables can be used even before they are declared. So let's declare a variable called as notes. Notes equals to, let's say JavaScript is cool. Okay, now pay attention. If I try to console this notes variable on line 10, if I save this, I get JavaScript is cool. If I try to print this notes variable on line 9, see, on line 10 I have declared a variable called as notes, but I am trying to access that note variable even before it is declared. Now pay attention to this line. JavaScript code is executed line by line. Now the moment I will save this, you see I get undefined. But some of you might be thinking that hey, don't you think we should have got an error? See, we are trying to access notes even before we have declared. Why did we get undefined and why not an error? Here comes hoisting. Hoisting is, let me not write it, but let me explain you. So hoisting is just like a lift. It just takes every declaration and it just moves it on the top of the scope. What is scope? Well, this entire part that you see here is the scope. So imagine JavaScript has a magic elevator that moves all declarations, be it var, let, const and functions, to the top floor, so top of the scope, even before the code runs. But there is a catch. Variable declarations, so declarations that is declared with the var keyword, they get stuck halfway. They are in the elevator but they don't have a value yet. So this is in the elevator, but at this point this JavaScript code does not have a value. The value will be assigned on line 10. So on line we do have a variable, but since all of this is hoisted at the top, moved on the top of the scope chain. So now we only have this thing where nodes, that's it. Okay, so this entire thing is just like nodes. So we do have a variable of nodes, but we do not have a value. So if I comment this line, if I try to access this, you will see we still get undefined. See, we get undefined. Okay, so this is completely same as this. So if I comment this out, if I have a nodes variable on line 14 and if I'm trying to access that at line 13, that nodes variable do exist in our scope chain, but it does not have a value. That's why it says undefined. Now don't question that why did JavaScript moved all of the variables and functions on the top of the scope chain. Don't question that, because if you question that, then you will have to understand the internals of JavaScript. But for now, just think it like this. Now this is one thing. Now let's try to do the same thing with the let and the const keyword, and let's see the magic. If I say let nodes equals to JavaScript is cool, of course if I console it later down the line, we will get nodes, JavaScript is cool. But now if I try to do the same thing that we did with the var keyword, if I try to print nodes on line 16, on line 17 we have this nodes variable, but we are trying to access this on line 16. And pay attention, this is let, this was var, this is let. Now you will get an error. Now cannot access nodes before initialization, and the same thing will happen with const keyword as well. So now it says cannot access nodes before initialization. So let me write note where is hoisted moved to the top but to undefined. Let and const are not hoisted. Come on, hoisted. This is very simple hoisting. Now let's see hoisting with function. So functions are also hoisted because behind the scenes functions are also just a regular value. So if I say function, say my name, very simple function declaration. Hey buddy, just say hi John Wick. Hi John Wick. If I execute this function here, everything will be okay. Hey John Wick. But if I execute this function on line 20, see on line function is declared on line 22 and I'm trying to access function on line 21. This will still work. Save this, see I get hi John Wick. Now let me tell you one thing. Functions are like complete books. They are ready to be used. Variables are like notebooks. You have some pages empty, you have some pages filled, but functions are like complete books. To read these books, you don't have to actually go to school. You can just open your book and you can read it. You can read it in your home as well. So function is complete book. Variables are not complete books. Just think it like this as a terminology. Now, do all functions get hoisted? No. Only function declarations are hoisted. Function expressions and arrow functions are not hoisted. So if I create an arrow function, I can say const or maybe a function expression. So this is a function declaration. Function declaration. Now I'm going to give you an example of function expression. First of all, what is an expression? Well, an expression is something that evaluates to a value and can be stored to a variable. So function expression is just going to be a value that will be stored in a variable. So here we will have to create a variable. Of course that variable will be treated as a function, but we are going to create an expression, so we have to store that expression in a variable. That's why we call it function expression. So it does not have really much difference than a function declaration. So here I can say my name loudly equals to a function. That's it. So we have a variable that has a function assigned to it, and it becomes a function expression. Here I can again say, hey John Wick, something like this. If I execute say my name again here, say my name loudly like this, of course I will get the output, hi John Wick. But if I try to access like this, you can say, you can actually think that okay, we will have the same output, but no, there will be an error. Says cannot access say my name before initialization. So function expressions are not hoisted. You can think why? Well, because this is const. Okay, even if you say let, you'll still get cannot access my name, because behind the scenes this is actually a variable that has a value of function attached to it. That's why function expressions are not hoisted. Just like let and const are not hoisted, let and const are not hoisted. So let and const are not hoisted because this let say my name loudly is also a variable. It just have function. Previously we just had notes. Okay, this variable value, actually let me show you. See, const notes equals to javascript is cool. Okay, so what is difference between these two variables? Const notes equals to a string, let say my name loudly is a function. So that's why if const notes is not hoisted, how can we think that const say my name loudly or let say my name loudly can also be hoisted? No, this is not possible. Why? Because const and let are not hoisted. So that's why function expression is not hoisted. Similarly, arrow function is also not hoisted because arrow function is also hosted, also stored in a variable arrow function. So if I say const laugh equals to an arrow, that's it, cl ha 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 ha. If I try to access this one here, no, we will get an error. See, we get an error. Okay, says say my, okay, I'll have to comment this one out. See, we get cannot access laugh before initialization because const laugh is still a variable that has an arrow function. So value is arrow function. This is the variable, the value is the arrow function. Now you can ask me that okay, but I understood that a var is hoisted but with undefined, right? So ask me that then we can create a var and can have a function stored. Good question. Let's now try to do that. If I change this const to var, what do you think will happen? Do you think we will get the output of undefined? Let's see. We still get error. Now it says type error, laugh is not a function. So variable laugh is not at all a function. It is not even considered a function. So you can't even think of having hoisting terms with it. Similarly, if you try to make it, even if you try to, like, maybe let's check this one. Let's turn this say my name loudly to a variable, and if I try to access this one later, let me take it. Okay, you'll still get the same error. Let me comment this one out. You'll still get the same error. You see, it says say my name loudly is not a function. So yeah, so this is hoisting. In hoisting, some of the codes, specifically variables and function declaration can be used before they are declared. Okay, now let me tell you in the meantime that why do you think that why do we get this error? Say my name is not even a function. See, if I do this, if I make it let, we get a different error, cannot access say my name before initialization. But if I change this to var, now I get totally different output. Now it says the error is type error, say my name loudly is not even a function. Well, the reason is that a variable defined with var is hoisted, but the value is undefined. So when you have undefined, when you call undefined like this, then what do you think you will get the output? You'll definitely get the output that undefined is not even recognized. So this is it. So this is why you get this output. If I comment this out, if you save this, you see it says undefined is not a function, because the value of say my name at this point is still undefined. So this is undefined. So when JavaScript calls it, then when you call undefined, you are going to get this error. Undefined is not a function. So that's why you get undefined is not a function error. Okay, so this is a very simple JavaScript hoisting. I hope you understood hoisting, and please subscribe. I keep bringing such important lectures, and yeah, this is it. That's it that you have to understand in hoisting. Now next up probably will be the this keyword.